Have you ever stopped to think about why, even having more opportunities than any previous generation, you still feel empty inside? Why that feeling that something is missing never goes away, no matter how much you achieve? The answer might lie with a 19th century philosopher who understood something our modern society prefers to ignore. Something about human nature that contradicts everything we've been taught about being happy. Get ready to discover why the constant pursuit of happiness might be exactly what's making you unhappy, and how a pessimistic thinker might have the key to a lighter life. We live in a strange time. For the first time in history, being happy has become a social obligation. You can't be sad, anxious, or simply tired anymore without someone showing up with a miraculous solution. Open any social media platform and you'll find hundreds of people smiling, showing off their perfect lives, their perfect bodies, their perfect relationships. And if you can't feel this constant joy, then the problem is you. You're not trying hard enough. You're not thinking positive enough. This silent pressure is creating a generation of people who feel broken inside simply for being human. The smile has stopped being a natural expression of joy and has become a mandatory mask. Anyone who doesn't wear this mask is seen as someone who needs to be fixed. But what if the problem wasn't with you? What if the problem was with this impossible expectation of permanent happiness? The truth is that this demand to always be okay not only doesn't work, but actually makes everything worse, because it transforms normal emotions into signs of personal failure. You wake up in the morning and already feel like you need to be okay. You need to be motivated. You need to be ready to face the day with energy and optimism. If you can't, you already start the day feeling inadequate. And this repeats every single day, creating constant emotional fatigue. It's like you're always chasing a standard that nobody can truly maintain. Now you need to meet a man who lived over 150 years ago and already knew all this. Arthur Schopenhauer was a German philosopher that many call a pessimist. But maybe he was just too much of a realist for a society that prefers to live on illusions. Schopenhauer discovered something fundamental about our nature. There's a force inside us that never stops wanting. He called this will. It's not the conscious will to make a decision. It's something much deeper and more dangerous. It's an energy that always pushes us forward, always wanting more, always unsatisfied. It's what makes you feel that emptiness even after getting everything you wanted. It's what keeps you awake at night, thinking about what you still need to achieve. Schopenhauer realized that this will is irrational. It doesn't want something specific. It simply wants. And when it gets what it wants, it immediately finds something else to desire. It's a motor that never shuts off, never rests, never becomes completely satisfied. And the more you try to feed it, the hungrier it gets. He himself wrote, "All satisfaction, or what is commonly called happiness, is really and essentially always negative, never positive." This means that what we call happiness is just the temporary absence of suffering. It's like quenching thirst. You don't become happy by drinking water, you just stop suffering from thirst until it comes back. Think about your life for a moment. How many times did you think you'd be happy if you got that job, that relationship, that amount in the bank? And when you got it, what happened? For a few days or weeks you felt good, but soon that emptiness came back, didn't it? Soon a new goal appeared, a new desire, a new achievement that seemed to be the key to real happiness. Our modern society has turned this dynamic into a perfect system of chronic dissatisfaction. There's always something new to buy, something better to achieve, someone more interesting to meet. Social media constantly shows us what we don't have. Advertisements convince us that our life would be complete if we had that product. Self-help gurus promise us that the formula for happiness is just one course away. And we, especially men, were educated to believe that we are conquering machines, that our function is to produce, win, accumulate, that showing fragility is a sign of weakness. So we swallow frustration, mask emptiness, and keep running after the next goal. But the truth is that this race has no finish line. It's like going up an escalator that's going down. You can run as much as you want, but you'll never reach the top. And while you're running, you lose the life that's happening around you. You lose the ability to be present, to feel, to simply exist without needing to conquer something. But the problem isn't just individual. There's an entire industry built on top of your suffering. Happiness has become a product. There's a gigantic market of people selling the promise that you can be happy all the time. Courses, books, retreats, miraculous therapies, mood supplements, meditation apps, all promising the same thing, that there's a secret formula to get rid of suffering forever. And the cruelest part is that this market only grows because it never delivers what it promises. If it really worked, people would stop buying. But since the promise is impossible, they always come back looking for the next solution. It's a perfect business, selling something that can never be delivered to people who will never stop looking. Meanwhile, you feel guilty for not being able to reach this state of fulfillment that everyone around you seems to have found. The truth is that nobody has found it. Everyone is pretending, just like you. Everyone is buying the same products, following the same gurus, trying to force an emotional state that goes against our own nature. And with each course that doesn't work, each book that doesn't transform, each method that fails, you feel more inadequate. As if everyone could apply these techniques except you. As if you were the only one who can't be happy following the instructions. But the truth is that the instructions are false from the beginning. They're based on a lie about what it means to be human. And here we arrive at one of the most toxic aspects of this mandatory happiness culture: forced optimism. You've probably been through this. You're feeling bad, and someone shows up with phrases like, "Think positive," "It could be worse," or "Life is beautiful," as if it were that simple, as if you could press a button and change your feelings. This imposition of constant positivity is creating a serious problem. People are losing the right to feel. Sadness became depression. Anxiety became a disorder. Tiredness became laziness. Loneliness became a social problem. All natural human feelings have been pathologized or demonized. And this creates terrible guilt, because you not only feel bad, but you also feel guilty for feeling bad. It's an extra layer of suffering that our society has created, especially for men who are taught from childhood that they can't cry, can't be afraid, can't feel lost. The result? An entire generation of people who no longer know how to deal with their own emotions, who think they need to always be okay to be accepted, who spend more energy hiding what they feel than processing what they feel. And this creates constant internal tension. It's like living with a pressure cooker inside your chest. The pressure keeps building until it explodes in unexpected ways. Panic attacks, rage explosions, episodes of deep sadness that seem to come out of nowhere. But they don't come out of nowhere. They come from years of suppressing natural emotions in the name of an optimism that's more harmful than helpful. Schopenhauer explained this in a simple and devastating way. According to him, human life swings like a pendulum between two extremes, suffering and boredom. When we don't have what we want, we suffer from the lack. When we get what we want, we soon become bored and look for something else. It's a cycle that never ends. And happiness? Happiness only happens in the brief moments of transition between these two states. It's that second when you get something you wanted, before boredom arrives. Or when you're about to get something, before the disappointment of conquest. That's why happiness always seems to be in the future or in the past, never in the present. In the future because you imagine you'll be happy when you get such and such thing. In the past because you remember moments when you felt good and think you were happier before. But the truth is that you were always in this same cycle. There was always something missing. The difference is that our modern society has accelerated this process. Now we have more options, more stimuli, more things to desire. And this has made the cycle faster and more addictive. As the philosopher Pascal observed centuries earlier, all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. We've lost the ability to simply be. We always need to be going somewhere, conquering something, becoming someone different from who we are. But here comes a question that could change everything. What if we weren't made to be happy all the time? What if the expectation of constant happiness is the problem itself? Think about nature. Do you see any animal trying to force an emotional state? Does a lion blame himself for not being cheerful after hunting? Does a bird get anxious because it can't sing all the time? Nature has rhythms. It has moments of activity and moments of rest. It has different seasons, each with its function. But we, modern humans, are trying to live in eternal emotional spring. And this is unnatural. Our biology wasn't made to sustain constant joy. Our brain wasn't programmed to ignore real problems. Our emotions exist for a reason. Sadness helps us process losses. Anger gives us energy to change unfair situations. Fear protects us from real dangers. When we try to suppress these emotions, we're cutting our connection with reality. We're trying to be something we're not, happiness machines. But we're human beings, and human beings feel everything. Emotional winter isn't a failure in the system. It's part of the system, and trying to skip winter is like trying to have a harvest without planting. It doesn't work. What happens is that you get stuck in eternal autumn, always preparing for a spring that never comes because you didn't go through the winter that makes it possible. And our society has created the perfect distraction to avoid dealing with these feelings. We live bombarded by constant stimuli, videos, notifications, tasks, appointments, noise. There's always something happening, always something to consume, always new information coming in. And do you know why we do this? Because we're afraid of silence. We're afraid of being alone with our own thoughts. Because in silence, in emptiness, is where real feelings appear. It's where we realize what's really happening inside us. And since we've been taught that these feelings are enemies, we've created a life full of noise so we don't have to face them. But this strategy has a high price. The more we run from ourselves, the more we lose ourselves. The more noise we put in our lives, the emptier we feel inside. Distraction works like a drug. It temporarily relieves, but the problem always comes back. And each time it comes back, it needs a bigger dose of distraction. This is how we become addicted to entertainment, to work, to anything that takes us away from ourselves. We spend our whole lives running from home, and home is ourselves. We run from our thoughts, from our feelings, from our fragilities, and the more we run, the more tired we become. But we never stop to rest, because resting means meeting ourselves. And this meeting has become the scariest thing in the world. As if inside us there was a monster, when in reality, inside us, there's just a human being, tired of pretending to be okay. But Schopenhauer discovered something interesting. He realized that there's a moment when the will stops. There's a state where we don't want anything, don't need anything, nothing is missing. He called this aesthetic contemplation. It's when you're facing something beautiful and simply observe. It could be music that touches you, a landscape that impresses you, a work of art that paralyzes you. In these moments, you're not thinking about problems. You're not planning the future. You're not ruminating about the past. You simply are. And in this being, there's deep peace. It's not euphoric happiness. It's something more subtle and more lasting. It's the absence of internal agitation. When you contemplate something truly beautiful, time seems to stop. You forget about yourself, forget about your desires, forget about your worries. It's as if the will took a break. And in this break, you experience what might be the closest thing to true peace. That's why art is so important. That's why nature calms us. That's why moments of genuine beauty are so rare and precious. They show us that it's possible to exist without wanting, that it's possible to be alive without constantly fighting for life. It's as if for a few instants, you stepped off the wheel and remembered what it means to simply exist. Without goals, without hurry, without lack, just being what you are, in the place where you are, in the moment you're living. And this brings us to a revolutionary idea. What if peace was in wanting less, not in having more? We live in a culture that teaches us that the solution to any problem is to add something. Are you sad? Buy something. Are you lonely? Find someone. Are you bored? Do more activities. But what if the answer was the opposite? What if the answer was to take away, reduce, simplify? Schopenhauer suggested something we now call existential minimalism. Not just having fewer things, but desiring fewer things. Not just doing fewer activities, but needing fewer stimuli. When you reduce your needs, you reduce your dependence on the external world. When you lower your expectations, you reduce your chances of frustration. This doesn't mean giving up on life. It means stopping overloading life with impossible expectations. It means finding satisfaction in what already exists, instead of always looking for something new. It's a radical shift in perspective. Instead of trying to be more, try to need less. Instead of trying to have more energy, try to spend less energy. Instead of trying to be happy, try to simply be okay with what is. It's as if you stopped trying to swim against the current and started to float. The current continues to exist, but you're no longer fighting against it. You're moving with it. And this requires much less effort, much less anxiety, much less unnecessary suffering. As the Romanian philosopher Kioran said, "We weren't born to be happy, but to exhaust a possibility of existence." And there's something liberating about accepting this. But perhaps Schopenhauer's most liberating discovery is this: suffering isn't a failure in the system. Suffering is the system. And this isn't a tragedy. It's a truth that can free us. When you stop fighting against human nature and accept that suffering is part of existing, something interesting happens. Suffering stops being your enemy and becomes just another experience. Not a good or bad experience, just a human experience. Resistance to suffering is what makes it unbearable. Denial of suffering is what transforms it into despair. But when you accept that suffering is normal, that it's human, that it's inevitable, suffering loses its power over you. You stop spending energy trying to avoid it and start using that energy to live it more consciously. It's not about liking suffering. It's about stopping fighting with it. It's the difference between being dragged by a current and learning to swim in it. The current continues to exist, but you're no longer fighting against it. You're moving with it. And discovering that the current doesn't want to hurt you. It simply exists. You were the one creating the conflict by trying to go against it. When you stop resisting, you realize that even suffering can be bearable. Even pain can be just pain, without the extra drama we create around it. As if life were a river, and you finally learned that wisdom isn't in controlling the water, but in learning to navigate it. And here we arrive with a different promise. Not the promise of eternal happiness. Not the promise of guaranteed success. Not the promise that everything will work out, but a more real promise and, perhaps because of that, more comforting. The promise that you can stop running. That you can stop pretending everything is okay when it's not. That you can stop looking for happiness as if it were a treasure hidden somewhere in the future. True liberation doesn't come from finding happiness. It comes from stopping the search. It comes from accepting that you're already where you need to be, feeling what you need to feel, being who you need to be. Not because this is perfect, but because this is real. And the real, even when it's difficult, is always better than the fake, even when it's beautiful. True peace isn't loud. It doesn't need to be announced on social media. It doesn't need to be proven to anyone. It's a silent calm that's born when you finally stop fighting against yourself. And maybe, just maybe, in the middle of all this acceptance of what's difficult in life, you'll discover something surprising. Genuine moments of contentment. Not the forced happiness of the wellness industry, but a simple and true satisfaction of simply existing. Of being alive. Of being part of this strange and beautiful mystery that is being human. Because in the end, life isn't about being happy, it's about being real. And being real, with all its imperfections and contradictions, is the only happiness that really matters.